Welcome to Season 2 of the Small Town, Big Dreams podcast. Hi, I'm Becky Waples, and this is the podcast that celebrates small town creators and shares their stories. Each week, we dive into each creator's journey, from their background to where they found their courage, from their challenges to their wins, where they found their inspiration to how they took their first step. I cannot wait to chat, laugh, and inspire the next small town creator with each of my guests. If you are inspired by small town creators who turn their big dreams into reality, then this is the podcast for you. Please rate and subscribe to all upcoming episodes. Please follow on Instagram and Facebook, and always feel free to leave a message or comment to let me know what you'd like to hear or who you'd like to hear from. This little passion project is turning into quite the adventure, and I'm so glad you've come along for the ride. Thank you from the bottom of this small town creator's big heart. Let's grow together. All right, good morning, and thank you for listening to the Small Towns Big Dreams podcast. Today's guest is Tasneem Dairywala. Tasneem is a children's book author and illustrator, and she's also the founder of Art Ignite, a nonprofit community arts organization. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Becky. Of course, thanks for having me.
I appreciate you joining me. I think we met over Instagram.
Yeah.
So I have this list of dream guests that I would like to interview, and one of them was a children's book author and illustrator. And I can't remember if you reached out to me first or if I reached out to you first, but then I was like, this is perfect. This is one of my dream guests. So I might not have told you that, but that is it. I am excited to have you on today because that was one of my goals, was to have a children's book author and illustrator.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about you, your background, and what inspired you to write and create children's books?
Yeah, for sure. So I have been a professional artist for a long time, 8 years. I have, a BFA and with a minor in English. So I was doing a lot of painting series and stuff like that for a long time, and running art workshops. And then when I had my daughter, my creative practice just changed. It was the first time I think, held a children's book, reading to her. And I was just so inspired by the stories being told, by the artwork, that, I just really wanted to dabble in it myself. And it just turned into this medium in which I felt like I could speak to my daughter about some of my experiences, almost like what do I want to leave in this world when I go. And
right.
Yeah, so my art and my writing has become that for me.
How old is your daughter?
She's 4.5.
So she just started school?
Yeah. She loves it.
So she can tell her friends, my mom writes the books when they're reading books in class.
Yeah, I have done, actually, when she was in daycare. I did a couple of readings at the daycare, and she was very excited when I came in and one of the characters has her name.
Yeah.
It was very cute.
That is very cute. When we touched base for the first time, you did send me the books, your 3 books. And I did buy the Way to View the World, which is your 3rd book. It's your most recent book published, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought that one so that I would have it to read to my boys, and they both love it as well.
Oh, I'm so glad. How old are they?
My youngest just turned 4 in January, and then my oldest will turn 6 in June.
Oh, wow.
Yes, they love the Way You View the World. We read books before bed every night, and I read to my youngest. So I'm like, okay, you pick a book and I pick a book. And the other day, maybe a couple of weeks ago, he was like, well, I know which one you're going to pick, Mom. And he grabbed your book. I was like, yeah, let's go. Let's read. Yeah.
That's so sweet. I love that. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
We are. Can you tell us about your 3 books?
Yeah, sure. So the first book, How to Show Love, I wrote that when Sarah was, I think she was only 2 years old. And I guess, it's also inspired by the things that I was reading at that time. So it's very short. It's only 10 sentences long. And the other longer books, it's about being kind to yourself and being kind to others. Just a simple message that I feel like it's better for children to hear it as soon as they're able to, comprehend words. So that was my first one. And then the second one, The Little Fairy Finds Her Glow, it's actually the first in a series. I'm working on the second and third books now. And that one is I have bipolar disorder. I have struggled with mood swings and depression specifically a lot. And it was a way for me to tell my story and also make it okay for children and parents reading the books to have difficult feelings, to feel sadness and to know that there are ways to overcome it. And there are bigger things than what we feel in the moment. Love being one of them. So that one was I cried while writing a lot of
Oh,
it. And then my third book that I just released, that is just, very whimsical, poetic. I had a very light take on it. And it's about how my daughter sees the world. So like, of course, she inspires everything.
yeah.
But also, like, I remember as a child how I also used to look at things and how everything was just slower and more magnificent and, marveling at like small things and small moments. And I wanted to capture that in this book, how our world is so beautiful, but so often, like as adults, we rush past it because, well, that's what it is to be an adult sometimes.
True. Being able to see like the world through your kids' eyes. I love that.
Yeah.
Sorry, your daughter's name is
Sarah.
Sarah. It's very pretty. My sister's name is Sarah, so very pretty.
Oh,
So I'm guessing that, well, I think you mentioned it, that Sarah is like the inspiration for the majority of your books. She's even the character in The Little Fairy, right?
yeah.
I love that. How has becoming a mother changed you as an artist?
I mean, the medium of children's books, the audience is mainly children and their parents, but really it's children. Before I started writing books, I used to create paintings, which would be exhibited in galleries. And even the workshops that I did, they were also mostly focused on adults. And galleries, they're not really
Right. Yeah.
targeting children, they're targeting adults. So that's where like my work was, that's the age group my work was geared towards. And now, I mean, I guess because I spend so much time with my daughter, the way I communicate, maybe. I mean, I've had friends over who've been like, you started to talk like a kid this thing. Um, like, I think you're learning more from her than she is from you. Um,
That's
I
cute.
guess even with my work, like the way I communicate now and what I want to create, it's more geared towards children. And so that's kind of how it's changed after becoming a mom.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny you say that. My boys were learning sign language, like at daycare, and they would teach it to me, and then I'd go to work and I would be like doing like the children's sign language, and they're like, "What are you doing with your hands?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, you're not toddlers. My apologies." But yeah, that's true. They teach you just as much as you teach them, right?
For sure.
So you were a painter before. Had you ever written anything before your daughter was born?
No, I hadn't. I mean, I did, I have a minor in English, so I used to write
Right.
stuff
Yeah.
when I was in school, but like I not as like something that I wanted to publish or anything like that. But now I'm definitely writing,
That's very cool.
publishing more. Yeah.
That's very cool. And sorry, you said that you have a series coming up. What's the goal for the next two books?
It's exploring slightly different themes, the next two books, but they're both also based on magical characters who lose something in themselves as the story progresses. And then it's about like their adventures, getting whatever they think they don't have right now back. But I can tell you about the upcoming book. It's about an elf with a sparkly nose, and he is very vain, and it's about him discovering his inner beauty through just like a series of events. And like I felt like the fairy book, maybe because it was so connected to my own experiences with depression, like
Right.
I mean, it's a children's book. It's age appropriate, I would like to think, but it's heavy. This one is more humorous. So yeah, I wanted to explore humor in this one. And then the third one is also a little bit sillier. So I'm trying to, have these kind of, or start these kind of complex discussions, but in a lighter way.
Yeah. I like what you said about focusing on complex emotions. I think it's not like a controversial view, my view, but I do think that I like to like label my children's emotions so
Mm-hmm.
that when it happens again, like they know what they're experiencing.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so as you discuss that, like I completely agree with you. I think my oldest has panic attacks, and I was like, I label it because I want him to know like this
Yeah.
isn't who I am. This is me having a panic attack, like when he has one,
Right. Yeah.
instead of being like, this is who I am. This is what
Mm-hmm.
happens. I want him to be like,
Mm-hmm.
no, you're experiencing like complex emotions. And
Right.
so when it happens the next time, you can be like, oh, I've done this before. The last time I had this, when I took these big deep breaths, this is how I got out of this like feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna have to get that book so we can read that one to Ollie.
That's really tough.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if he's going through that.
And I wouldn't say he goes through it a lot. I just think
Yeah.
that me and my husband like disagree on whether it should be labeled or whether we should just be like,
Yeah.
okay, come on, bud. And I'm on the side of being like, let's discuss the feelings that he's going through. So the next time it happens,
Yeah, of course.
he like knows he's been through this before. It doesn't
Yeah.
he knows what worked last time.
Yeah. Yeah. I do the same thing. I
Yeah.
always like, let's identify the feeling. What's the top feeling? What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also feel like as like a person, like as like me and
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
my sister said it the other day. She's like, you're catastrophizing or something. And I was
Mhm.
like, I never knew the term for that. I thought I just had this weird thing that I did. And
Right.
even just being told that's what it was, I'm like, oh, okay. So I don't know.
Yeah, it makes me more aware of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a little tangent I just went on, but only because I agree with like, yeah, identifying complex emotions and
Yeah.
then knowing how you felt the last time and how it didn't last forever and
Mhm.
you got out of it, what worked. And so, yeah. And I do believe that you should be teaching them as young as like they feel
Yeah.
emotions as soon as they're born.
Yeah.
Why are
Yeah.
we like brushing it over?
Yeah. 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 And giving them a chance to express them too, right?
Yeah.
Not
And
just
I have little boys too, right? So I feel like little boys are always said like, don't cry, like
yeah.
man up. And I'm like
Yeah.
the exact opposite. Like, no,
Yeah.
no, no. We don't tell my little boy to man up.
Right.
We talk through it.
Yeah.
Sorry, a little tangent, but
No, no, no. It's I'm glad we have similar parenting styles.
yeah. So let's talk about your Instagram because when I found you, I went on your Instagram immediately. And I think your hashtag toddler talks with your daughter are actually so funny. They're very funny. So I assume you started that when she was like born or when she started saying some funny things. How does sharing these experiences and your drawings and your pictures on social media inspire you?
I actually started them when everyone was in quarantine. So she was a year old at that time when she just started to talk. Children are hilarious.
Yes.
And at that time I didn't have energy to do more than like 15 minutes of drawing a day. It's like I'm just gonna do 15 minutes no matter what that I can get. I can feel creative. I'm not just always in one mode. And then I started posting them on Instagram, and I didn't even have Instagram before then. And it was almost just like a way to reach out. Like we're all alone right now. We're all in our homes. Everyone is with their children all the time. Like everyone is going through different types of experiences. A lot of them are really tough, a lot funny. And so it was just a way for me to reach out to others like, hey, me too. I'm also going through
Yeah.
this. And isn't this great? Or isn't this horrible? And it was just I found them to be a fun way it's almost like a diary, right? To
Yeah.
record what was going on and then to be able to share it with others. And like, I would like send them off on WhatsApp to my friends who also have like young children. And it was just a really fun way to connect with other people. And those then eventually led to working on books.
That's probably why I love it too, because it was they're very relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. So, sorry, you said that you were drawing this stuff because of the lockdown, and
Mhm.
then it ended up inspiring your books. When did you write your first book?
I think I started working on my first book in 2021, but I didn't publish it until 2022 because I was just trying to figure out how publishing works. So I was just doing a lot of research. Like, yeah, I think COVID was, from 2020 to 2021, like that 1 year I was like working on my comics. And because I was working on the comics, I got a hang of digital drawing and digital painting. And then that led to creating like full illustrations, like just one-off illustrations, and which then turned into a series, and then turned into a book, and now I have a series of books. But yeah, it started my practice really. It did really, really change during quarantine because there was just like we were forced to take a break from our regular life, right? So I think for everyone, it changed something.
And I like how you said, like, we were doing anything to like feel a connection with others too.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm Lauren Best, and in my podcast, I have conversations with compelling creatives and answer your questions. I dive into what I've learned as a voice coach and performance poet, and share why over 15 years of music leadership has shaped my collaborative approach. I reveal how I've reawakened my own creativity. Subscribe to my new show, Lauren's Best, wherever you get your podcasts. Join me on Substack for exclusive bonus content, laurenbest.substack.com.
I actually wanted to ask because what is the process to publish a children's book these days?
So I have been self-publishing. I'm also applying to traditional publishers. I won't lie. I'm kind of like all over the place. I'm just seeing what works. I'm a very experimental stage. But I can talk to you about the self-publishing process.
Yeah.
I'm doing it through Amazon. It's fairly straightforward, their process. Yeah, like it's all on their website. You go to, pdp.amazon.com, and then it's a step-by-step thing. Yeah, you just need to know how to format your book and stuff like that. Like you have your size guides and things like that. You can also hire people to do it for you. I have enough kind of, technical knowledge that I was able to put everything together myself. And then this is just putting it up on the website is not that hard. Creating is really hard, and then marketing is really hard. And doing stuff like this really helps.
I think I have been on that website before. And so do they make you put in the artwork, the words? Okay, no, I think you have to upload the document, but they actually make it a physical book for you.
Yes.
Is that
yes.
accurate?
Yes.
Perfect. And I think that's a really cool thing that they do for you as well. Do you find that Amazon is like I mentioned, I know that you said you have to do your own marketing, but are you getting a lot of sales through Amazon?
I get a lot of sales if I very actively market my books. So usually I do that in the first couple of months when the books first come out, and I am able to make quite a lot of sales during that time.
Nice.
But after that, I have a lot of other responsibilities. So after that, I'm not really able to continue marketing until then the sales dropped. So it's very like, as long as you keep doing it, as long as your page keeps showing up and you created like a good cover page and a good description, and you've done some research in your keywords and categories and stuff like that, people will buy it. But there is also a lot of competition. So if your page is not constantly showing up, which means you're not doing the marketing, then no one will find your book. And then I've done experiments with Amazon ads and a whole bunch of stuff, and there's still stuff that I want to do, but like with marketing you have to invest money. So it's really based on like how much your budget is and how much you're willing to experiment with. Like I know people who spend thousands of dollars marketing their books, and they were okay investing their money, and now they're at a point where they're making that money back. I'm like not there. So eventually maybe.
Yeah. That is cool that Amazon lets you do that.
I am grateful for that for sure, because traditional publishing, it's hard to get in, right? It makes it accessible, and then it's really up to you and your work and how much time and money you can invest. It's all up to you.
Yeah. Do you sell in bookstores as well?
I am selling in one bookstore in Toronto. It's called Another Story Bookstore, and I just moved to Osaka Beach. So there is a store over here called Welcome Home. It's in Stainer. It's a little town next to Whistler Beach. It's even smaller.
Yeah.
So they're over there. Yeah, I definitely want to reach out to more retailers once we're a bit more settled over here. Because there are a lot of small stores over here, and I think it would actually be easier. It's been easier to sell books in this store, which doesn't sell other books. They sell home decor stuff, than in bookstores in Toronto, which sell tons of other books. And there's like my little paperback that's
Right.
in a shelf somewhere. So yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So you just moved to Wasaga from Toronto, is that correct?
Yes.
I don't even know the population of Wasaga. It seems big to me. I have family that live in Elmvale, and so when we drive through Wasaga
You're
Beach,
from here? I didn't even know you were in Ontario.
I'm in Ontario.
I don't know why. I just assume everyone's from the States.
That's so funny because someone reached out to me and I was like, I just live in small town Canada, and they're like, oh, I assumed you're from the States. I was like, no. So that's funny, but no, I live in Port Elgin, which is like probably 2 hours from Wasaga, but it's still a super small town. Yeah.
One day we all meet too.
Yeah, but when we drive through, because I have family in Elmvale, so when we drive through Wasaga, I'm like, this town never ends. But what would the population of, no, it's still small compared to Toronto, but it feels big to me in Port Elgin. But what would the population of Wasaga be?
I think it's over 20,000, like 20,
Oh, wow.
23,000, which is the same as my neighborhood in Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
We're all just spread out over here, right? Like in Toronto, everyone lives in buildings. So like, it's completely different. It's so dense.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to call it a small town because Owen Sound is like 20,000 too, and I would call that a small town.
Right. Like Collingwood, I would say, is a big town.
Yes. But yeah, so you just mentioned that it's easier to sell your books in the local store than it is in Toronto, and I'm just curious if like you've noticed that with other things. Maybe I don't know, maybe you're not really doing marketing in Wasaga, but I just feel like when you live in a small town, when you tell somebody you've created something, there's just a lot of support there. Have you found that?
I have, but I mean, to be honest, like even in Toronto, I had a lot of support because I had I knew a lot of people within the art sector. So I had a very large network and they were all willing to market the books for me. So I wouldn't say that I've received more support in Wasaga just because I don't know a lot of people here yet. But I think I will get to know that, and I think we will be similarly supportive. I think it really is just about the type of connections you form, not about the location.
True. And you know what? I think because it's about community, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So you had the art community in Toronto, and I was thinking the small town community, but you're right. Like it's where your community is. It doesn't really matter geographically.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and that being said, I just found work with the town of Wasaga. And
nice.
I have to go there soon. And the library is in the same building, and they're going to be putting my books up on their shelves as well.
Very
cool. Do that. So that was really nice because Toronto Public Library, you have to jump through like a bazillion hoops, which I was like, I'm not doing this. It's not worth my time. Whereas over here, I just showed up and I was like, can I put some books on your shelves? And they were like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And maybe
some things are definitely easier.
Yeah. And maybe that's because Toronto, they're like, oh, there's a lot of authors here. And Wasaga is like, what? A children's author? Of course we're going to feature you.
Yeah. They're very supportive. It is easier, to get to know people. Over there, you have to spend more time making those connections.
I also wanted to talk about Art Ignite, and I don't really know a ton about it. So it's a nonprofit organization that you founded.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a community arts organization. I founded in 2017. So for a long time, since I was in high school, I was working with the city of Toronto as an art instructor, and there were just things that I felt like I wanted to do that I couldn't do in that position. I wanted to grow. I wanted more programs. I wanted more artists. I wanted everything. And I was like, okay, I need to do my own thing now. I can't work for the city anymore. And so I started to work as an independent artist, and I got to know lots of the organizations in the community art sector. And then I went ahead and I was like, okay, let me incorporate my organization because I clearly am an expert at running nonprofits with my BFA. But it worked out. We must have reached over 1,000 people. I mean, I must have planned over 500 workshops, like at least a dozen exhibitions, like community exhibitions. It was wonderful. It was also a lot of work, and I burned out, and then we moved here, and so now it's just on break. But I'm already like, now I've started working for the town, and I'm like seeing all the programming spaces that the library has over here, and I'm like, I'm gonna start programs.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm gonna start that through Art Ignite, because running a nonprofit organization, there's a lot of overhead.
Right.
If you don't have a large budget, that means you're just working all the time.
Yeah.
But I might, start working as like an independent artist and just running programs with them at some point once I've settled everything else, all the other pieces of my life.
Yeah, you seem very busy. But that's really exciting.
Are you ready to live kindly, confidently, and ridiculously happy? Me too. I'm Sophia Lemon, and I host Ridiculously Happy Peoplecast. Once a week, I sit down with an awesome person I want to learn from, and we talk about how in the heck to balance life. Throw on your sweats and prepare to laugh, cry, and even cringe as we talk about all the bullshit that comes along with living ridiculously happy. Subscribe to Ridiculously Happy Peoplecast, and that's PPL Cast, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you find your podcasts, and get your shit together with us.
Do you mind if I ask, what are you doing for the town of Wasaga?
Yeah, I'm in their customer service role, and it's really interesting because so far I've always worked as like I've always worked for myself. And when I was working for the city, I was working as an art instructor, so I didn't see the back end work. And so,
Right.
I mean, today's going to be my third day, so I'm still learning, but it's different from everything else that I've done so far.
Very cool.
Yeah. And it's a part-time job, so hopefully once I've settled into it, it will also give me an opportunity to continue working on my business and running programs and all of that stuff.
Very cool. Well, it sounds like you have to work today, so we can kind of finish up here. I was going to ask, can you share any advice for authors and illustrators or artists?
So like I haven't been publishing books for a very long time, so I'm in no way an expert, but for someone who is just beginning, I would say just be patient. It takes time for your skill level to grow. Like I still get so frustrated when I have an image in my mind and I just can't bring it down on paper. Like I get so angry sometimes. So try to relax, be patient with yourself, give yourself time to learn, to grow, for things to happen, and try to get to know everyone. Like I think I spend since I graduated from university, I think I spend more time just connecting with people than, maybe not more time, but in the equivalent amount of time just connecting with people. It's like just creating my work, because if you don't know anyone, well, how's your work getting out there? So I think those two pieces I would say are crucial to being an artist: being patient, not running out of it, because if you do, then that's it, your work ends there. And making connections, like dual soul.
Very cool. Well, I wanted to ask then really quickly about what your favorite children's books are, or who your favorite children's authors are.
Oh yeah. So I just got a new book. It's called Soleil, and it's by, she's an actress, Lupita. Hang on, let me look up her name. I wrote Lupita, and I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
Lupita Nyong'o, I think.
Yes. It's a beautiful book. The illustrations are just absolutely gorgeous, and I really related to her message about inner beauty, and like, I've been working on my elf book, and yeah, the story, the way she wrote it, it came through so beautifully. And yeah, like it has like the main character is like a little Black girl, and I find it really special when I find books that have minority representation. I also really love, I think one of the first books I read, which is probably also why it left such an impact on me, was Giraffes Can't Dance by, I forget the names of all the authors.
That's okay.
Um,
Giraffes can't dance.
by Giles Andre.
The thing about kids' books is that like you're right, like the kids don't know the authors really, so they're telling you what books they want to let. Like that's why we only know the titles.
Yeah, exactly. So that one, because it's all about like, yeah, like believing in yourself and like discovering your potential, but it's like silly, and the main character is a giraffe who can bounce. And the last one is like, The Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. I think it's a very popular book. I'm not sure if you've read it.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah, so inspirational. Like even as an adult, I read it to one of my friends who was going through a slumpy moment. It's like, let me read you a children's book.
Yeah.
It will help.
Yeah. We read that one at our like grade 12 graduation in high school.
Oh yeah, it's lovely. I keep picking it, and my daughter's like, no, not again.
I was gonna ask, what's your daughter's favorite book?
What's my daughter's favorite books? Honestly, okay, yeah. So there's this they're two sisters, Sarah and Carmen Cullen, and they have a publishing company, Ocean Tales, and she loves all of their books so much. They're also self-published authors. I highly recommend you looking them up. The first book that we read was Love a Mermaid. But yeah, they write books about, like under the sea creatures, and their illustrator is also amazing.
I found them on Instagram. Sarah and Carmen. So my oldest name is Ollie. So anytime I saw a book that had Ollie on it, I named it, and they have a book named Ollie. So
yeah,
add to shopping cart.
Yeah.
And my youngest loves mermaids, and you said I see the mermaid book too. So add to shopping cart.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Amazing. Well, if you'd like to be part of the podcast, I'll share it with them.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I definitely will. Okay. So I know I already asked, but where can we find your books specifically? Where can we find you?
I am on Instagram. My handle is Dairywala. My books are available on Amazon, and yeah, like that's, if you live in Toronto, you can visit Another Story bookstore, and if you're in the Saugustiner area, there's a Welcome Home decor store. But mainly on Amazon. And you can also find out more about me through my website at tasneemdairywala.com, just my full name.com.
Perfect. I will put all of that in the show notes, including the link to Amazon, and I'll try to find the links to those other stores as well.
Amazing. Thank you.
No problem. Well, awesome. Thank you for joining me today. That was fun.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. It was nice getting to know you. And it would be amazing if at some point we just met. I don't know how.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty far. But if you're ever in the, close by.
Yeah, absolutely.